Okay, we're going to talk about pivot points today. And I don't know if any of you, I don't know if any of you actually use pivot points or have heard of pivot points at all. Have you? Because it'll be great if I knew exactly if you actually have heard of them, which would be good. Brilliant. Okay. I'm just going to run through a few points and see, please feel free to jump in at any time, because obviously I think it's better if you interact. So using pivot point analysis. Why use a pivot point, or what is a pivot point? Yeah, okay, look, don't get smart. We ain't started yet. A pivot point is a calculated price level of significance and effortless to calculate and can be used as a predictive indicator of price movement. And I think that's the key to this pivot point, is it's actually a leading indicator and it's predictive, so that the night before you can actually plan what your day is going to come from late at night. So you've got all your pivot points worked out because you're doing it on a high, low and close basis. I'll go through this, but then I'm gonna try and get this all up first and then can explain. Right. A pivot point, you've got the pivot point, first resistance, second resistance, first support, second support. These are the associated support and resistance levels. Now, they can be S&W. This is not wiki. It's not boot camp. No, absolutely right. So, these support and resistance levels are often used throughout the day as turning points for the direction of the market. You can use, supposing the market is going up and we open above the pivot point, you can see the market then going to the R1 resistance calculated within the pivot point analysis, and you sort of take profits there, or you buy above that R1 looking for it to go to the R2. Now, in a declining market, the pivot associated support levels, they can act as a base, so that at a quick view, if it goes through your pivot point, this is your next support level. This is without looking at the chart or anything. It's just purely on what happened the day before. Now, the pivot point calculations, this is where I get lost, because I'm very much hands-on, do the charts, trade sort of person. But this is quite a simple way, when we was on the floor, of instead of having charts in our hand, quickly you could calculate if the market opened above your pivot point, it was going to go to R1, open below, it was going to go to S1. It was that simple. And today, although we have evolved, if you like, and we can go as far out as you want to on this pivot point analysis, they're still really well used in the Forex market, just usually using the high, low and close. And that's the high, low and close of the price of the prior trading period. Now, I do them on a daily and a weekly, because I think if you go any shorter term than a daily and a weekly, so say an hourly chart, you're going to be forever looking at what happened in the last hour and do more calculations. So it's much more, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for better, but listen, it's much more smooth if you can actually get these pivot points out of the way the night before. Now, because I sit and watch till the market's closed, it's quite simple for me to do that. So, but I mean, if you're not sitting there till 10, 11 o'clock at night, then obviously you do it first thing in the morning on the previous day's values. So on its most basic form, it's the high plus the low plus the close divided by 3. And that gives you the pivot point for the current trading session. This is why it's predictive. You can do it the night before and it will tell you where the market's going the following day. In some cases, for example, if the market runs away overnight, which we've seen with the Aussie this week, you can do the open, high, low, and close divided by 4. So you take the opening bar. Now, I always take my analysis from midnight, purely because foreign exchange never shuts. In the other markets, you do have an actual closing time, and you can do it on the currency futures at the close. But normally, for me, it's done. I set it so it does it at the 12 o'clock bar, midnight bar. But if you can see it's gapped down in the morning when you wake up, you could always add the open to your equation and just slash it by, divide it by 4. Exactly. Okay. Now the same thing happens here. You can do the high, low, close, plus the close divided by 4. So many people use to trade these so many different ways. It really is down to you how you want to calculate it. I think personally that you just use the high, low, close. If it gaps open the next day, high, low, close, open, and that should be it. You shouldn't have to go further out. But because I'm doing this talk to you on this, obviously I've got to give you all the information that I know. And I'm not getting anybody talking to me yet. No. Okay. Right, so we've thank you. Okay, so we know where we're calculating how to get the pivot point. Now, we now use support and resistance levels within that. As I say, they're completely mathematical calculations based on the previous day's data. You can do it in the most significant analysis after the pivot point is the R1 and the S1. This is because you sort of fluctuate around the pivot point normally in sideways markets. And so it's quite easy to stay within that band of the R1 pivot S1 going along. But we'll come to that in a bit. The most significant is the R1 and S1. Now, this is the calculation. You do 2 times the pivot minus the low gives you the R1. 2 times the pivot minus the high gives you the support one. Now, you can see how basic that is. Once you've got your pivot point, you can do what you like. Now, as I said, we do outer perimeters. I only normally go up to the S2 and the R2. I don't go beyond that unless something drastic has happened overnight. So to get that second resistance level, you can see that it's pivot plus high minus the low gives you that. Obviously, you can see the change of that one. That pivot plus low minus the high is the support level. Now, if you need to get an R3 and an S3, you do high plus twice the pivot minus the low equals the R1 plus the high minus low is R3. The inverse is the same for the S3. You can see why I think life is too short for all of this and I only go out to the S2 and the R2. You can extend these to 4, but the full set by instead of doing 2 times, you do 3 times. You triple that value, okay? And that takes you that far out. I mean, to be honest, you're not really going to need that to do it on a daily or a weekly. But if you feel the need, you can do that. Yes, you are going to get an exam at the end. Actually, you haven't. What I've got is I've got some little charts that I did this morning, and I know the market isn't doing much. I'll put these charts on, and yes, spreadsheet are wonderful things. Yes. you put these, I've got these charts on, and I'm going to show you just how and if the market has followed the pivot point analysis today. And I did this around about 10:30 this morning, when it really hadn't done a great deal. So we'll have a look. It took me more time to actually do the PowerPoint thing. Now we know where we are, okay? We know how we're going to get. We know how we're going to get. You are back at school. Oh, really? Oh, yes. So behave. You're going to get an exam at the end of it. How do you apply these pivot points to trading? Which is what, we're all here for. We're not here to become great analysts and to write books or do anything. Look, we're all in it to make money, from trading. I'd probably make more from writing a book, but from trading, we're going to, we try and have as much information as we possibly can. So there you go. There's your pivot point. Okay. So we're going to oscillate between the pivot R1, S1. Now, if we open just above the pivot point during the day, well, in the morning, actually these work really well in the morning, and Asia really like these. If I look at them in the morning, I'm like, do you know what? It's done it. But you just have to hope that every other time frame, i.e. Europe and the US, are all looking at the same thing, and they all try and bash it back to the pivot point. That's another little thing, but later. So if we open just above the pivot point, the market will try to go to its first resistance level. This isn't a chart point. This is just a random resistance based on the pivot point analysis. So what you find is that people start to take profits here, around here. And the idea is then to go back into the market. If the market looks like it's going to go up, it should never go below the pivot point. If it goes above the R1, you know that automatically it's going to go towards, not maybe actually to the pip, but towards the R2. So you're expecting it to go higher, and you're waiting to take profits on any long positions that you put in just above the R1. The R3 is something that I don't use that much, but the times I have looked at it, it has worked really, really well. And they tie in. And the great thing about everything, we need as much information as we possibly can on trading. And when you see that these R1s, R2s, R3 pivot points combine with your stochastics, your Fibonacci levels, this is what will make them move a lot further and quicker, because it all sort of comes together as like a catalyst, if you like, to say, right, we know it's going up, and off we go. Same applies on the downside. If the market opens at the pivot or below, it should go to its S1. Now here, you can take profits. Everybody else will be. And the thing is, then once it breaks that S1, you're going down to the S2. Brilliant. Okay? So it just gives you a little... When we worked in the pit, us traders in the pit, I used to make a note, we used to have trading cards. And it was just such an easy thing. Go work them out as soon as you got in, write them on your trading cards. There it is for reference. Anybody that reads anything that I write on my charts, you'll see that I always put the pivot points down, because for me, they are important. I think they're very important. And I think they may have got lost in the trading fraternity, if you like, along the way. But, there's some people that actually only trade pivot points. And there's a good friend of mine who works and lives in the States. His analysis is based purely off pivot points. And he trades as well. It's all right. It's so hot here. I'm gasping in my office. I'm sitting here with a bottle of water. I don't know whether I drink it or throw it over me. Now, markets do go up, down and sideways, as we've talked about before. If the market is going sideways, you see that the price movement, the price will gravitate and sort of fluctuate, whatever you want to say, around the pivot point, doing nothing, and then you can only act on a breakout. Okay. Now, as I said on the previous slide, trading above or below the pivot point or indicates market sentiment. What did you trade in your younger days? Well, in my younger days, I traded the 30-year Treasury bond, which aged me 10 years in the first 6 weeks I did it. So I traded everything. No, I wish for it here. I so wish. No, I traded the 30-year. I traded the S&P, God help me. We didn't have the mini, then you only had the S&P. Didn't really trade currencies, not until I went back to the office. So mainly, it was gilt, bit of FTSE, but the main one for me was a 30-year, which was one of the biggest markets in the world. And we had to trade the ARB as well. So it was all very, very... and nobody looked at charts, so it was only me. And I looked at pivot points as well. So I thought I had that edge. I just hide my little pivot point analysis so no one could see me. Pretty sneaky. The thing that I like about it is Stuart, no, my life is too short to look at the previous day's worth of pivot points. What I do do is all my reports I print off and I keep them. And sometimes I look at them on reflection and I think, oh yeah, that's done that, and that's done that. But when you're talking about 3 days, I go the 5 days and do it on a weekly. I know the weekly pivot for most of the markets that I trade, look at, analyse today. So I wouldn't worry about a 3-day. Just make it work for yourself, you know. The thing to do is to go with what the market is looking at or what you think the market is looking at, and they are not look at the previous 3 days worth of pivot points to act as support. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I'd just do it on a daily basis and a weekly basis. As I said there, look, it's just too time consuming. You need the bigger picture. And you don't want to do it in an hourly, you don't want to do it in a 3-day really. You need the bigger picture so that you're not misled. Now, I know for a guaranteed fact that algo systems, not all, some, because I've spoken to people that's written them, are based on this pivot point analysis, and they're the ones that go through the 5-minute, the 10-minute charts, and that's what their algo systems are made up of. They try the pivot point analysis going out to like R6 or something, which is quite too mathematical for me. I prefer to keep it really, really simple. But I'd like you to have a look at this that I've written today, this morning, quickly, and learn how to use these properly, because they really are good. Now, these are the little charts I've done for you. So we've got the euro, okay. So we've got let's just look. You can all see where the euro is at the moment, can you guys? Okay, if you can't, it's trading at 132.64. Okay. So this morning we traded at 132.93. That was my last price. The high of 133.01. Look at your pivot point. It's 132.66. Your R1 is 132. It is like fish swimming, but I can only get these pivot points by putting in these little things on there for you. I can't do it any other way, the way it's done. And to show you, I've had to do it like that. But look here, look, 132.99, and your high's been 133.01, and that's been there. That's still the high. Now your support one is 132.31. We've got a low of 132.13. Now this could be just because it's summer markets. They're not really going anywhere. You know, you look at that chart. It's not a chart you'd want to be buying, is it? I mean, overall you want to be selling the euro. Oh, it does look like fish swimming. Sorry, I've got a really croaky throat. It's the heat, I'm afraid. In southern Spain, it's boiling. And so, maybe not a great comparison in the euro today because it seems to have not really done a great deal. So let's go on to, I've got the British pound next. Okay. I don't know if you can see there, that little green thing there. You see that? Okay. Well, that is 151.88. And that was also, if you looked at that, that was also your first, your 38.2 Fibonacci level. So that was quite important. And your trend was at 151.32 here. Okay. And we went to 151.26, so we're actually down here somewhere now. But my point being is if you knew your pivot point was at 152.72, you can see that when the high was below the daily pivot point, that the emphasis was going to be on the downside. You can see from yesterday's action as well, the chart shows a bearish bar. So you knew that the market was going to go open and it was going to trade lower today. It's at what point do you try and get in? Well, we didn't make the pivot, which would have been an ideal. Anything 10 pips, so 152.65, 152.60, 65 is where you want to be selling. It didn't get that far. It only got to 152.45. But that showed you that the weakness was in the market today, which followed through. So we look down here at the 50% level, which is at 151.18, and that trend line at 151.32, and the low has been at 151.26. So you can see that the S2 and the fib level and the trend line has basically captured it today. So when all three of them sort of come into focus, you go, yeah, okay. And we then bounce back to 151.63 we're trading at the moment. Any questions? Okay. Now another one is the Aussie dollar. Yes, they are. They're all the pivot points. But I don't see them normally. I'm just interested in the pivot point analysis over here. And once I've written them on the chart, I get shot of all those little pivots. I'm sure there's a way of getting rid of them, but I just keep them really because I don't have them on my screen all the time. They're on there for a nanosecond while I put them onto my reports. So you don't have to have them. I mean, there are systems that don't have these dashes and dots and what have you, because they're quite misleading during the day. As long as you've got them written down, once you've written them down, they're not going to change. Okay, they're not going to alter. They're going to be good for the next 24 hours. Once they're done, once that bar's done at 12 o'clock at night, you've got till the previous 12 o'clock at night. These pivot points aren't going to alter. No. Yes, on a daily. Yes, they are calculated for each candle. Now, I say they're calculated for each candle. That doesn't mean to say you can rush out and start doing pivot point analysis on an hourly chart. You really would be wasting your time, seriously wasting your time, you know, especially when the market's moving. You're better off using fib levels to do that. You do not want. What else do you support resistance on? Yes, I have to, I use it all. I do like the pivot point analysis, I have to say. But I mean, nothing's ever going to take for me, it's not going to take the place of a chart point. I mean, support and resistance is the be all and end all for me. You know, that's the way I think. That's the way I think markets should be calculated, is on support and resistance level, especially if you're a technical trader. You know, they are very important, but you have to be aware of these other things that come into it. And for 30 years, you know, I've used pivot points. So I don't have any preference, really. I suppose the thing that I have to be aware of are the support and resistance levels off the chart. But the pivot point analysis and the Fibonacci have a great, you know, they're all basically the same. I like them three more than I like anything else, for example, because I think if you look at the way the markets move, these technical indicators can help you, especially as pivot points are a leading indicator. You want to be that one step ahead. You want to have the edge over everybody else. And I think this is what I'm trying to do in these webinars that I give you. I try and put in things that I use, that I know work, to come over to you, so that you will use them as well. And they're very simple. These pivot points take like 3 minutes of your day, and yet could give you an awful lot of information. They really, really can. So we've got the Aussie dollar up there at the moment, and the Aussie is trading at now, we're trading at 89.74, and we were trading at 90.37. Now, our second support is at 89.38. So you can see that we've not quite got there yet, but we got to 89.44. Again, very important. Look at the high. The high is below the daily pivot. Okay? It's below it. The daily pivot was at 91.06. Our high on the Aussie has been 90.77. No, boy, Pete. Do you know what? I've probably done about, I don't know, how many have I done? 6, 7 webinars with you guys. I think it's about that. If you think of all the things that I have to put into my trading, my charts, my analysis, my research, whatever, to add in economic news as well just isn't viable for me. And in my day, yes, I'm that old, but in my day, you were one or the other. You know, you didn't have a technical trader that looked at news. You had news traders that looked at news, and that's what they did. And, you know, never the twain shall meet. You had the economists that used to give out a lot of ideas, loosely, ideas. They used to come out with a lot of ideas. And I think if you're just a pure technical person, you're not influenced by anything. You're influenced only by what you see. It's very visual. It's very, you know, where you are. I mean, it doesn't work for everybody. I talk on the little chat line on forexstreet.net. I do it sort of twice a week. And they really look at every scrap of news that's coming out everywhere, and the worldwide news. And I just think, look, you know, the worldwide news is this, but if you look at this and you know that it didn't reach the pivot, it broke through the first support, and you know it's going down towards the second support, you know, what could be easier? I mean, you know, come back to me, right, give me a question, and Boyke, because you asked the question, why would you want to look at economic data and news as well? I mean, do you not think that there's enough in the market just to look at technical stuff rather than news, or not? No. Yes, there is. Now, that's not to say, that really isn't to say that news doesn't drive a market. I'm not saying that at all. I'll be the first to hold my hands up and go, do you know what? It can. But also, markets are very, very technical. And I think once you learn, I mean, I've been doing it 32 years now, which, if I say it quickly, it don't sound so bad. But I've been doing it 32 years now. And I still don't, I still can't get over the way that markets do exactly what charts say they're going to do. 85% of the time, you know, it is mind-boggling to me that it actually can do that. And I've been doing it for many, many years. You know, look, see it comes down, it bases, it goes up, it can't break that first resistance level. Okay, it tries it at 1, 2, 3. There you go, can't do it. What can't go up has to go down. Right, that's looking at the Aussie. Okay, we've been to the Aussie. It's got a low of 89.44. Its second support is 89.38. So it's been there. Okay. So unless it breaks this 89.38 level, the chances are we're going to see a little bit of a bounce later on. It is remarkable. I can show you that. I mean, I've finished my little webinar now because I ran out of slides. But we can have a look. What do you want to have a look at? Ian, you've got on an hourly chart. Is that an hourly Aussie chart? Okay. Oh, God, back to my family. Where are you? These are your pivot points for the day. Exactly the same as what we had before. But you're absolutely right. You know, the way they do bound around the pivot is quite phenomenal. If you look over, if you went and looked at it over a period of time, look, you can see all these little things here. You know, they really do act. If you can put the pivot points onto a 60-minute chart, it does help, but you just don't want 60-minute pivot points on a 60-minute chart because you will have them everywhere. You'll have them all over the place. You would. Absolutely. Well, you always go in above the support and below the resistance. So whatever levels are given as support and resistance, you always go in above or below because you don't want to be left standing there like an idiot with your position that really was doing very, very well until you wanted to get to the exact tick. But it's in the general direction. So once you saw that the Aussie had gone through its pivot point, where was the next place it was going to go? Through the S1, where's the next place? S2. At a very quick glance at a piece of paper or a card or wherever you're going to put it down, you know that towards 89.38, you're going to get some buyers. You're going to get the sellers that are covering their short, they become buyers. You're going to get buyers that come in because it's near the S2. They're going to be outright buyers. So if you can just imagine that in your mind and be aware of where the market is predicted to go, you'll be all right. I mean, they do work. Oh, God, yes. Yeah. They are for intraday trading. By their very nature, they are for that day. Okay? You don't, only if you do weekly pivot points, which is a whole different ballgame. But you calculate your daily pivots for that day. And it's based on the previous day's action. So whatever the market does the day before, you do your pivot points on the day before's action, which predicts where it's going to go today. You use the pivot. Yeah, I mean, the shortest period I go out is a daily. That's it. I don't go any further. I don't do a 60-minute pivot. The most important thing is the daily pivots. That's where the market, everybody, okay, all people, I don't think there's any person trading foreign exchange or any of the futures markets in a day that doesn't know a pivot point. Maybe they do, maybe it was just when I was trading. Well, when I was trading for the banks, they weren't very well known. Maybe, I mean, most of you have said, yes, you know about the pivot points. Most of you said, yeah, we do. So, Ian, they're very important. They really are important. Look, Sunday night, when that market opens, or Friday night, when the market closes, I mean, more on a Friday, because the market shut till Sunday night. So I work out all the weekly pivots, I know exactly where they are, I've got them all written down at instant reference. So throughout the week, on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you're always referring back. You have that weekly pivot ingrained in your brain, okay? And probably the S1 and the R1, that's probably the only other thing that you have to be aware of weekly. And during the day, when you do your pivot points first thing in the morning, they are for the day. They are for the intraday trader. Okay, they're not for the longer term hedge funds. They're for the day. That's it. 12 o'clock, they're finished. They don't roll over. They don't hold you over till the next day. It's not like Fibonacci's where unless that changes and that changes, these resistance levels are going to stay the same. With pivot points, that's not the case. Every day you change them. Every day we'll see you with a different pivot point, different R1s, R2s, R3s, etc., etc. Okay, they're all, yeah, absolutely. Well, all right, I'll show you. Okay. That's me in there. That's my mum. That's my dad. And I was but a little baby, futures forex trader. A little baby one waiting to get out. It was always difficult. So, anybody want to ask me anything else on some market we haven't gone over on? No problem. Some market we haven't gone over the way you'd like to see the pivot points again, and you'd like to see if they do work. Sure. Okay. You know how to get you've got your pivot, haven't you? Your pivot is high, low, close, divided by 3. Gives you your pivot. Now to get your S1 and your S2, no, I've done that. Yeah. Dollar, South African, no. Yeah, I can do the Dow. Right, hang on then. So you do the pivot plus high minus the low, and then you do pivot plus low minus the high, and that will give you your S2 and your S3. Okay, let's do the Dow first, because we do not want to look at the Dow. So look at the Dow very, very quickly. Gold's a good one. Any of you trading gold, they love it. Absolutely love it. Okay, pivot points. So, a pivot point on the Dow is 15,531. Okay. So you can see that we opened up we opened up right on the lows, just underneath it by three little things, and then went flying up. So the high has been that 15634, 15645. Yeah. So it's got a little bit, it's gone through the first one, so it's gone through your R1, and it's going to your R2 as we speak. It's going to probably come under a little bit of pressure up here, which it has, but shouldn't go below here now, which is 155832 pivot. No, it's 2 times pivot. Oh yeah. Pivot plus low plus high minus the low. Pivot plus low minus the high. Okay. So, we doing, is that alright on the Dow? You can understand where it should head for? You've got this, if you want to refresh yourself on it, you can go through and click your own, make your own pivot R3 if the Dow does actually break through. And you want to look at the EURUSD. Okay. Pivot 14565. Again, didn't come close to the pivot. Has gone straight up through the R1. Looks like it's on its way to the R2, which is at 148.21. Okay. And even without that, if you're looking at EURUSD, I mean, it had such a lovely little pattern there, like a little continuation pattern to show a move higher. Oh, I don't use MetaTrader 4, actually. So I wouldn't be able to tell you. But I mean, depending, I'm not sure. Yeah, FX Street does have a pivot calculator. I found it a few years ago, which was great. And I'm sure, if my memory serves me right, that FX Street pivot point calculations actually go out to your R3, might be even your R4. So you can get them all. You can get them all there. I don't go out that far, but if I wanted to, I could. But I haven't, so I don't really need it. But yeah, I mean, you can. You really should be. Well done. You know, you really do need to get these pivot points in your head and use them. They are an extremely good trading tool. You know, they're one of the best that I've used for a leading indicator. And I suppose really the reason I haven't mentioned them before is I'm used to them. It sounds awful, it really does, but I forget people don't know about things because it's just, to me, it's just a natural thing. No, I just put them on every day because I learned many years ago that everybody was looking at them. So for me, it's just another step that I do in the morning. But I would seriously do it if I was you, because their wealth is invaluable, but especially if you're a new trader and you've got, you know, if it makes your brain hurt. You're looking at this, you're looking at that, you're looking at all manner of different things and wondering what you should and what you shouldn't be looking at. These are very straightforward, and these get you into looking more at charts, looking more at technical stuff, looking more at, okay, well, I've got that, where can I tie it up with to make sure for confirmation? You know, once you get your head around these pivot points, the rest will follow. I hope everybody was short of gold. Yes. Okay. Well, I think I'm worn out my time now. Now I'm not going to be here next month, I'm afraid. It's August and it's already extremely hot. So I'm going to take some holiday. The charts will still be done from my wherever I am on an online Wi-Fi thing. But unfortunately, I won't have access to be able to write and do seminars, webinars. But I will, hopefully, if I'm asked, be back with you in September. Okay. So, well, oh, that's nice. Really? Oh, Ian, yeah. Listen, I live in the south, but, you know, I've seriously got a suntan already. It's just sitting up in this office, it's unbearable. And for some reason, my Wi-Fi doesn't actually reach to my garden, so I can't sit there by the pool doing my work. And you. And I hope, you know, that it's gone in a little bit, this. And that you enjoyed it. Okay. All right then. Well, thanks ever such a lot. All right. What's the difference between classic pivot points and Camarilla pivot points? I don't know. Do you know what? I don't know and I don't care. I'm only interested in the classic ones that I do. Okay. Have a look on Google. I haven't even heard of them, to be fair. All right. Well, you have a great August, and see you all when we get back in September. All right then. Bye.